Hello, construction professionals. Welcome to the podcast where we flip the fucking script on what it means to live, breathe, and lead construction today. I'm Jonathan Cinelli, author, educator, coach, and construction professional who has spent a lifetime immersed in the construction world. This is a world that's traditionally been dirty, dark, and disrespected. An industry that generates $1.4 billion in revenue every year, yet still treats the people doing the work like they're a throwaway object, like they're a piece of shit whose life does not matter. I'm here to challenge the status quo with real, raw, and uncomfortable conversations to create the awareness that is very much needed on our sites and in our offices. Join me on the journey as I speak with great human beings and we illuminate how things change when you lead with a people-centric approach. The world has changed. It's time construction catches up. Special thanks to our show sponsor, O'Neill Electric Supply, since 1965. O'Neill's been serving the community and amplifying themselves and those around them. Check them out, www.o'neillelectric.com. It is always more than transactional. My decades of interaction with O'Neill have been miraculous. It's never been about the transactional widget. Of course, they're going to check the boxes and get you the great materials. And of course, they're going to help you reduce your cost. And of course, they're going to constantly grow. And they have 24-hour pickups and open Saturdays, and you can text your orders in. And there's a whole boatload of things that really make the transaction part of it seamless. It's not much more. It's the actual care and compassion about human beings. When you pick up the phone, it's always about the connection first. Hey, how are you doing? And how do we amplify your world to make the project a tremendous success? O'Neill actually cares about that. You can see that from everybody delivering the material to taking the order to the top executive team making the decisions. It wholeheartedly flows throughout the entire organization, from some of the organizations they contribute to, the charities they immerse themselves in. O'Neill Electric is no joke. www.o'neillelectric.com. They tremendously make a difference. They actually believe in the people. They support you. And that's why it is an honor to have them part of this show. This is super special. When we talk about putting people first and leading with a people-centric approach, O'Neill Electric really does that. And those are the partners I want to align with. You could choose a bunch of people. There's a bunch of organizations out there that will be tremendously transactional. Yeah, sure, it's going to check the boxes. How's it going to leave you feeling? O'Neill Electric takes it to the next level. www.o'neillelectric.com. Check them out. Connect with them. They will really change the game and elevate everything in your orbit. Jonathan Cinelli here. Welcome to another episode, People First, Then Construction. I am your host of this podcast series and movement. Today, sitting with Christy Crook, Phoenix Masonry, Denver-based Colorado magical. Listen, Christy's here. She tells us what it's like to go from living construction to bankruptcy in an epic time, and then pivoting past that and taking a risk and starting one of the still female-run masonry businesses. Phoenix Masonry, built up from the ashes. Christy is magical. She takes us through what it's like to truly lead with empathy, to show up, and what happens when she shows up and says, I was a jerk today. And how to pivot past that. What it takes for Christy to make tough decisions, the questions she asks herself when she gets to that. The realization that she's not in it for herself, she's in it for those around her. Christy is up to big things, introducing women into the industry in a rough and tough, traditionally male-dominated space. Christy's flipping the script on everything we thought we knew construction. She's doing it differently. She's doing it magic. She's doing it with empathy. And Christy acknowledges that there's no room for ego on construction. In fact, she believes it wholeheartedly. It's on their website. It's embodied and ingrained in everything they do. Christy brings us back to a point in time where when you shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, and give them your word. That's what matters most. She takes us through what it's like when you honor your word, hold integrity, and still pivot into having the courageous and uncomfortable conversations that the industry has. What it's like to build relationships the questions she asks to learn about people, how she fosters great relationships. Christy believes that relationships are the cornerstone of everything we do, and she takes us through that. This is magical. She leaves us with some huge takeaways. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. All right, Christy, we are recording. I am pumped up with energy. Thank you for making time to be here. Our pre-conversation before pushing record, we pivoted so many different directions that it's only fair to the audience out there to hear some of the stuff we're talking about, because we're talking real world construction. We're talking how things in construction, in my opinion, sort of sometimes you can see some regression, and sometimes you can see, I love the conversation where we talked about subcontractors can be viewed as problems at times, which was hugely powerful to me. And maybe we'll pivot into there, but so much of this going on. First of all, welcome. Thanks for making time. You are up to magical things in the subcontracting world, in the masonry world, in Denver, Colorado today, and hopefully it expands to wherever it is you want to expand to. But thank you for making time to be here today, because you are one amazing human being that the world needs to see and hear.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's an honor to be here. I'm so pleased to sit down and have this conversation.
Well, let's pivot into that, right? Because the audience out there is saying, okay, Jonathan, okay, Christy, cool. Christy, bring us into your world. Tell the audience who you are as a human being, as a professional, why we're having this conversation today, and what's important to you.
Oh, Jonathan, there's so much. So just a really quick background. I am the president and founder of Phoenix Masonry. We're a Mason subcontractor in Denver, Colorado. We focus on structural masonry and then also some small repairs and that kind of thing. And so really that gives us the opportunity to look at a wide breadth of of projects. And so we've spent a lot of time recently really digging into some infrastructure work. And so we're really focused on a lot of water treatment and that kind of thing. But we also do schools, gymnasiums, multifamily, office. We really kind of do a lot of stuff if there's structural masonry on it. And finding different ways that we can, help build our community and keep the construction industry moving forward here. So in addition to running Phoenix Masonry, I also serve on the board of a nonprofit called Transportation and Construction Girl. And our aim is to show young women the opportunities that are available to them in the construction industry. So that's one of my passion projects. And, a lot of other different things. I also am an active board member for the American Subcontractors Association of Colorado. And I will be leading the charge at the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute as their first female president in their 50-year history. I'll start that on the 1st of next year.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Talk about breaking barriers. That is the emotion is charging. That's a proud moment.
It is.
Thank you.
It's very exciting.
That's breaking barriers. That's changing. That's flipping the script on the way it's always been done. Especially talking about masonry, right? Selfishly, I this is real. I had these conversations walking sites for decades. In my opinion, masonry is one of the toughest industries to get professionals into. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to lug bricks anymore, right?
Exactly.
Let's be real about it. I remember walking the sites in Toronto as an electrical subcontractor and asking the masons, what are you guys doing to retain the workforce, to get workforce? And it's such a touching topic because there's no answer for it. There's no answer for it. It's tough.
It's a tough challenge. That's for sure. I think that the workforce challenge that everybody is facing is real. And we've got to look at things differently. We've got to kind of shake up the way we've done things in the past, just to help build that workforce. And there's so many obstacles that I think the construction industry as a whole has faced, particularly over, I would say, the last 50 years or so. We've really struggled with attracting people to come and work in our industry because the narrative had been for so long that four-year college is the only option.
Right.
That's what everybody is getting pushed towards. And so now we're having to kind of flip the script and recognize that construction, there shouldn't be a stigma attached to it. It's an incredibly fulfilling and exciting industry to go into. There's opportunities for advancement. I love that in construction, it really, when I talk to almost anybody, almost everyone that is in this industry started from the bottom and worked their way up, whatever that might be. That they were a laborer, or in the masonry world, a hod tender. They started there, they learned the craft, and they've worked their way up. And I have employees who started working with their dads when they were 14, 15 years old during the summer, and they were tending hod, and now they're foremen for me. And they're making really good money. They don't have student loan debt that so many people are struggling with. And
Right.
it's such an exciting industry to go into, and there's no limit to what you can do. So
Well, and pivot this. I'm curious now. Let's pivot this to, bring me into that world again. The female
the transportation and construction girl.
transportation in construction girl. Okay, cool. So, you're talking to these young females. What's your story? Like, you got it. You've been in construction. Why construction? You could have been You could have been in any industry. Why in masonry? Like, a masonry of all things. Tell me that. Like, what gives?
So, my background, my history in construction and masonry is very similar to everybody else's. My dad was a mason contractor, so I grew up in the industry. When I was young, my dad would take my sister and I out on the weekends to go visit his job sites, and at that point, he was doing flat work in California. So we'd strap on our roller skates and we'd go and we'd roller skate around job sites while he was having meetings with superintendents and that kind of thing. So construction felt like home to me just from the very beginning. So as soon as I got my license, I started working basically as a courier for my dad. And so I would drive around town and pick up plans and drop off submittals and meet with general contractors, get checks, that kind of thing. And, that was a long time ago. We'll just say that. But, I was at that point, I was building the relationships that I would then turn to when I started my own company here. And, I think I might be getting a little off track, but I moved into some different roles with my dad's companies. I worked as safety director. So I've done the OSHA training and that kind of thing. And that was also a while ago. So I'm sure some things have changed, but and then I moved into a role of business development. And then unfortunately the great financial crisis hit our family really hard. And if you were here in the construction industry in 2008 and the few years after that, I think that we all collectively have a little bit of PTSD from it. It was really, really difficult times. And so when my dad lost that company in 2008, my whole family, we lost everything. I went bankrupt and lost my home. My sister went bankrupt and lost hers, and my parents went bankrupt and lost their homes as well. So, we floated around for a little bit, and I worked for a couple of my competitors and just realized that wasn't the path that I wanted. So I approached my dad. I asked him to come out of retirement and mentor me. And I started Phoenix Masonry. So our kind of tagline is up from the ashes. We really built the company from the ashes of the financial crisis. And I feel like we built something really, really great.
Okay. I'm taking a deep breath because thank you for sharing so vulnerably that story, right?
Yeah.
To go through that and to come up from that and up from the ashes is pretty magical. So there's a small window in there. And how do you, I'm really curious, you're going from a rough time in life, you're on the downward cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably discouragement and there's darker days. And then what the hell happens? Like, there's a trigger that says, game over. I want to start my own business.
Yes, that really was it. And I think that I've always had an entrepreneurial streak. I'm very passionate about that and about creating something that is lasting and it benefits the community and the people who work for me. And in addition to the financial struggles that we were having at the time, I was also going through a divorce and just really trying to find the ways to make my life have meaning and give myself direction and what I was going to do with myself. And so it was a tumultuous time. This I started Phoenix in August of 2010, so we're just about 2 months shy of celebrating our 13th anniversary.
Oh.
And it was difficult, starting the company in 2010 with nothing. I had barely enough money to buy our workers' comp policy, and we got that. And the first two employees that I had agreed to wait until I got paid from our first job until I would pay them their payroll. And
Whoa.
knowing that we came from just such bootstrap humble beginnings, and now I've got about 42 employees, and that varies. It is kind of seasonal. But and I feel like we've built something really good that people can be proud of, and that they resonate with our history as well. I think everybody can kind of reflect on and understand that being the underdog and having to claw your way up and make things work.
Okay. Holy smokes. So, 2010, this is, the economy is still where it is. It's been, 2008 collapse, 2009, you're still, and you decide there's a lot here. So I want to talk about this.
Yeah,
You decide the hell with this. I'm going to start my own business. And by the way, it's in construction. And by the way, 2010, I'm a female business owner. And by the way, masonry, rough and tough, more, like we can talk about this today. I believe Phoenix is still one of the few female-owned masonry contractors. Like that's pretty huge, right? In
yeah,
an industry where you're side by side with rough and tough men for the most part in probably one of the toughest, grueling tasks,
yeah,
bricklaying.
yeah,
Or
absolutely.
masonry, right? And it's nice. I just want to acknowledge this. I want to make sure that our audience catches this because this is something I wholeheartedly believe. You start all this with passion, and the passion shows up again. And I want to illuminate what I heard you say. Before you get to that, you say, "Dad, I want you in my corner. Come out,
Hmm.
support me, mentor me." You leaned into the discomfort and said, "I'm going to
Yeah,
surround myself with the people who know. I'm going to be part. I want the experts in my corner.
yeah,
This is it." Yet today, for some reason, I'm going to go on a brief rant. We have construction professionals that believe that once they get to the top, that's it. They don't want to. They don't want to lean into the experts to continue to grow, and that is a pain point. That if we do one thing in my lifetime, it's shift the mindset of the way we lead our construction sites. That it's never
hmm
ending. But back to that. The other interesting thing that I want to come to for you is you take a job and you
hmm
have two people that work. You have two people that you say to you, "Okay, folks, hang tight
yeah,
till I pay you. Hang tight." That is pretty magical because do this is the argument point, right? Is there folks out there that could live through that today? Our brains are immediately going to say hell no, right? Most people are going to
yeah.
say they're going to jump ship. So what if you can bring us back to that moment in time? Like, what do you do to create that connection, to have the courage, the vulnerability, and the bravery to say, "Okay, team, I care about you. I love you. Hang tight. You will not go forgotten." What do you do to create that psychological safety with them?
I think I personally was in a lucky position. My first two employees actually had worked for my dad at his company that he'd lost the couple of years prior. So they knew us already. They knew our integrity and the value that we place on our people. I think it's really important to remember that that I'm not the most important person at my company. In fact, far from it. I feel like I've gone uh, to great lengths to make sure that I understand the issues that my employees are facing, and including them in decisions, and talking with them. And it brings to mind, a couple of years ago we were really looking at our benefits packages that we offered to our employees, and kind of trying to analyze that in the roles of retainage, and also in recruitment. And so we polled our management, my foreman team, and we found that my employees would rather have more paid time off than they wanted some of the other benefits that we were offering. And I think it's so important to listen to your employees when they tell you what they want, versus just doing what you think they want, because sometimes that's not the case. And so we learned that they really value the extra time to be able to spend with their families, and that kind of thing. And so we kind of we adjusted some stuff, and we decided, to offer a couple more paid holidays and additional vacation time, in order to meet what they were asking us to have. And so I think the biggest lesson there is listen to your folks. They're gonna tell you what they want, but you have to be willing to hear it. And I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here in saying this, but I think that construction can be a very ego-driven industry. I think that there's a lot of people who are very ego-driven, and when you kind of stop yourself and you're like, hold up, there's still things for me to learn here. That can open the door to so much. The biggest danger is when you decide that you know everything, and that there's nothing more for you to learn. Then you've kind of stagnated right there. So you just always have to be willing to listen to your employees, be willing to talk to them, connect to them. I think that my employees don't always like me, but that's okay, because they know that I'm always looking out for their best interest, Phoenix's best interest, and that kind of thing. And we can always come together to solve problems together. And I think that my employees all know that they can come to me. My door is always open. Nothing is off topic or off limits, because we're all here to solve problems together. And I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for the team that I have. And, like you said earlier, surround yourself with experts, surround yourself with smart people, and lean on them, and recognize their talents, and give them the opportunity to shine.
Magically said. Thank you. And you struck a whole chord of things that are just so bang on, right? Ego takes over the construction space too frequently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said is, when we stop learning, that's it. I mean, I look at it and go, there's two things that happen in life. You're either growing or you're dying.
Yes.
And if you're dying, you're becoming extinct. So you choose, folks. It happens more times than we like to acknowledge, that you walk into a meeting, into a whatever, and you've got, somebody who's done this for 30, 40 years, who will beat on their chest, either metaphorically speaking, but sometimes not, and say, this is how we're going to do it. And okay, holy smokes, man, you don't even know the issue and you're telling us how it's done. Well, no human being on this
planet, put out the fire.
No human being on this planet likes to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So it resonates. And there was something that sort of caught my attention. And your father once said to you, I believe it was your dad, so please clarify.
Mm-hmm.
People do business with people. Did I capture that right?
You did. You captured it exactly. And that is that's just such a motto. I think that we kind of tend to dehumanize, when really what we need to do is put more effort into humanizing. Relationships and building relationships are invaluable in our industry. And I will say that the relationships that I've made with my clients, with my general contractors, with my service providers. All of those relationships come together to create something that's going to be successful. And to think that you can do it all by yourself, I think is a mistake. And when I think about the idea of people do business with people, it really does kind of, I think, go back a little bit to the days of construction, when it was just a handshake. And you follow your word. When you make a promise, you keep it. And if you mess up, own up to it. I think that a lot of people are afraid to make mistakes because they think that that's going to make people respect them less, or that kind of thing. But I think the bigger lesson there is, when you make a mistake, analyze it, figure out what you did, and figure out how you're going to change so you don't make that mistake again. And it's a constant evolutionary process.
Yeah, thank you. And what resonates with me is you're leading with empathy, right? We can see that the empathetic leader in you really shows up, and that's really, really courageous and really, really tough, I'm sure. Again, especially in the industry we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
It can't always be easy, right? You're making it sound fantastic. There's, I'm sure there must have been times where you're discouraged and you're getting beat down during a process.
Mm-hmm.
If when those moments occur, like what is there something that you learned for yourself as a human being that is worth sharing with the audience out there, that navigates through those tremendously tough times? Because life's not
Mm-hmm.
unicorns, butterflies, and rainbows all the time. Social media likes us to believe so, but it's not. It's shit sometimes. So when we hit
Yeah.
those rock bottoms, what have you done for you to help you pivot past it?
It's there have been some very challenging times. And in full transparency, Jonathan, I'm living one of them right now. We are we're kind of in the fight of our life right now, and so much of it stems back to those delays that I was talking about earlier, with projects getting delayed. A lot of people don't really understand the implications for your cash flow when a project is delayed that you think is going to go on time on your schedule, and then all of a sudden it's 6 weeks later. And you can't bill for work that you haven't completed. We might be able to bill for materials, and but that's about it. And
Mm-hmm.
and how much that can affect your cash flow. And and sometimes, the past, I would say the past 8 months have been really tough. And we've been scraping and leaning in on our relationships again, and knowing the contractors that I've worked with for the last 13 years, that they're there to also help us. And there's so many things that I think go into it that it's hard to encapsulate in just one word, like perseverance or determination. It's a little bit of all of that. It's kind of the idea of, have you heard of the burn the boats
Mm-hmm.
idea, where it's like that. There is no option for failure here. We do everything we can, and sometimes it can get really dicey and touch and go, but we dig in, and we lean on the people who we know are going to be good partners for us. And I think some of it is an insane intrinsic sense of optimism that I can't help but have, and that's just how I was born. And just an unwillingness to give up. I will go to great lengths to make sure that my employees are taken care of, and they're okay. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without the partnerships that I have with really important folks for the success of my business. Our payroll providers, our bankers, our CPAs, and my surety agent, and that kind of thing is really going back to those really important relationships, and being vulnerable with them, telling them, like, hey, look, I'm struggling right now, or I've got $10 million in backlog and I need some help so that I can get these jobs rolling. And it's again, it's just collaboration. It's, we're all humans trying to build buildings, and when you humanize it like that, it sure makes it a little easier.
Thank you. Thank you. And that sort of that really shifts the energy, and it illuminates. You talk about humanizing the industry. This is the biggest thing, right? We
Hmm.
live in a space that has dehumanized the industry,
Yeah,
has treated people like widgets, has assumed that human beings are robots. And what I mean by that is there's times where somebody will step on stage and like, where is everybody? I don't know, man. Like, holy smokes, maybe the guy went to the washroom for a second. Everybody just chill, right? And it's like the
yeah,
minute if there's no physical bodies there, it means there's no work being done. That is absolutely not the case. And anybody who believes that really doesn't have a true temperature read on what's going on.
yeah.
You
That's
know, and
that's funny. We've had a couple of contractors um, who will try and tell us, no, you need to get more men on the job. We need to have more bodies, more people on the job, and you kind of have to tell them, like, okay, slow down a second. Let me explain to you how you can't just double up the amount of men on the wall, because that's not going to improve production or anything like that. In fact, they're going to get in each other's way, and it's probably going to reduce your production. Um, let's look at these experts, these journeyman masons who know what they're doing, and let's give them the free rein to do it, and they're going to do a good job. I put so much faith and confidence in my foreman, the people who run my jobs, because they know what they're doing better than I know how to do it. So I'm gonna rely on them, and then I'm gonna recognize them for that.
yeah, right. And this is the message, and it's there's some presuppositions leading into this comment, except that I think that it's imperative in order for the industry to truly flip the script of the way we show up and lead our sites, and it's a whole movement that has to occur. It also starts from the
Mhm.
top. It's reciprocal respect. It's reciprocal respect from the client and the customer. I was mentioning this briefly earlier, offline or online, not sure what it was, where oftentimes you enter a contract and the immediate thought is like, who's going to screw who? That doesn't
Mhm.
work that way, right? We're having this conversation today about humanizing industry.
Yeah,
Humanizing industry. So for somebody to arrogantly, and I use that word purposefully, or egotistically, to show up to a site and say, I'm going to tell you how to do your job. Okay,
yeah,
listen, folks, I didn't know you were a masonry in this case. And if you are, then, what do you need me for?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So,
I think one thing to really kind of think about, going back to the humanizing and that kind of thing, is contract negotiations. And I think so many subcontractors don't understand that they can negotiate their contracts.
yeah.
When you get your contract, start a conversation with the GC on that. Let's start talking, and I negotiate every contract that comes across my desk, and I always start the conversation with, hey, I know that both of us are probably going to leave here not thinking that we got everything we want, but I need to help you understand what's important to me as a subcontractor, and I need to know what's important to you as a general contractor, because we're in this together. We're on the same project. You either chose me because you think I can do a good job, or just because we were the low bid. I don't know. But let me show you that we can do the job, and don't, you know, there's we could have a whole other conversation about contract negotiations, and I think that as of late in the last year or so, that's gotten more difficult. I think a lot of people are feeling nervous about the market and that kind of thing, and so they want to push all of the risk away from them, and it ends up falling on the subcontractors and then the suppliers. It all kind of goes downhill. And um, when I can help a general contractor see that we are human, that we're a small business, that we don't have a $10 million line of credit or that kind of thing, it helps to humanize me in their eyes, so that they can in turn look at that and say, okay, how can we help partner with this subcontractor
Mhm.
and help lift them up and culminate in a successful project.
Isn't that what it's about, though? Right? You said it. Hey, Jonathan, you hired Phoenix. Why the hell did you hire Phoenix? Well, Christy, I hired Phoenix for the following reasons: A, B, and C. Cool. Well, now the expectations are vividly clear. Okay, so if those are your expectations, how do I mirror those to match them so that we don't have conflict?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's
Relationships
all about
flourish.
communication.
Yeah, relationships flourish when there's communication, when expectations are vividly met. Not, Christy, I wanted an 8-inch block here and you gave me a 6-inch block here. Well, did you tell me that? Did I
Yeah,
know that? Holy smokes, folks. I love
exactly.
this, right? This is it. This is where the missing piece is. It's the human side of construction.
Hmm.
And I'm getting it from the energy that you're resonating from, the conversation you're having, from the vulnerability, the courage you're showing up with, to know that you're not, this is real. This is raw. This is authentic. This is how you show up to life. And I'm getting
Hmm.
that relationships are instrumental to you. Everything you've talked about so far has been around relationships. It hasn't been around pushing the widget and creating,
Yeah,
we can all build buildings.
yeah,
In fact, there's machines that can build buildings today. What machines don't have is what humans have, which is the relationship. So
yeah.
what is it? What is it that you do that really, if relationships are the cornerstone of everything you do, and it sounds like it is, then what is it you do to really foster relationships? What is it you do to connect with people to create those relationships?
Oh gosh, that's tough to boil down into, a few simple bullet points. But I personally, I think that keeping your promises, do what you say you're going to do. That means more than anything. You don't, and if you are going to fall short on something like that, talk to the person that you made that promise to.
Mm.
It's communication, it's openness, it's transparency. I also I feel like it's really important for me to use my platform, my position in the community, my leadership, whatever you want to call that, um, to help lift other people up as well. And the rising boat lifts, or the rising tide lifts all boats idea. This isn't any success that I have. I didn't get it by myself, and so giving that back is really important to me. And whether that be by my time, my money, my voice, whatever that is, it's lifting others up as well, and I think people know when you actually want to help them versus when you're like, ugh, I just have to do this because it looks good kind of thing, and people know
Huge.
that. I think there's an unspoken, it's hard to put a finger on how you connect with people, but always do what you say you're going to do, lift other people up, and step outside of your own ego, and realize that that none of us can get here alone.
Thank you. Magical, right? Magical, and
Thank you.
the construction industry, human beings need to hear that. It's not about us all the time. We live our lives thinking it's all about me. It's not. Listen, the moment you
Yeah.
step out of that and perform selfless acts for others, and they're not always easy, Christy. You know that there are times where
No.
it takes every ounce of energy, resource, even when you're depleted, and still show up wholeheartedly and actually care about the person
Hmm.
as a human being on the other side of that conversation, telephone, face to whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And
There's been a couple of times in the last 6 months or so where I've been under extraordinary amounts of stress, and I've I know that I've haven't necessarily behaved. I'm never one of those yellers or screamers or anything like that, but I haven't behaved the way I expect myself to behave in the office, and I show up the next day, and I pull everybody together, and I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I was an asshole yesterday,
yeah,
or I was stressed out yesterday, and thank you for putting up with me. We're all in this together, and it's not fair for me to take it out on you, just because I'm stressed out, and I mean it, and my employees know that I mean it, and I'm so extraordinarily lucky to have the team that I have working for me that are also understanding that I'm a human and that I mess up, and they give me forgiveness too.
So what happens next? You do that. So what? Now what? What happens?
Oh, I have a lot of ideas, a lot of things. Right now it's the strangest position to be in, Jonathan. We are, going kind of emerging from this struggle, and I've got the largest backlog I've ever had of profitable work. We're not giving work away. We're doing well. I'm growing. We're looking at needing to hire probably another 10 people by this time next month. So that's going to be a challenge. That's challenging for anybody. It's hard to find 10 journeymen, 10 experienced masons. That's but I look at that, I'm like, that'll be fun. Let's see what we can do. Let's build our team. Let's get the right people in here. Let's not just find butts to fill seats. Let's get the right people in here that are going to support our culture and want to be a part of that as well. So we're growing, and I'm really excited about the presidency position with RMMI. We're going to be really focusing on apprenticeship programs and on the job trainings and things like that. We were just awarded a grant from the state to start building that out. So that's going to be a really fun initiative coming up. And I can't stop my entrepreneurial brain. Anytime I see a problem in our industry, I'm always trying to come up with ideas and ways that we can solve this problem. Like I said earlier, construction is so collaborative. Let's figure out ways that we can work together even better. And I think that there's some really exciting technologies that are coming around. We actually did recently invest in two mules, which are by Construction Robotics. We haven't had an opportunity to put them on a job yet, but we're really looking at how do we get our guys excited about learning how to operate these pieces of machinery, and and kind of appealing to, this is exciting new technology that's going to make your job easier and more fun. So there's a lot of things on the horizon that we're really excited about building out.
Okay. So, you've going through this, right? You got the entrepreneurial mindset and business owner, and you've been doing this, and you really lead with an empathetic approach, a people first approach, which is beautiful. As a business owner, and for anybody out there, especially females, if is there one, two, or three things that you've learned in business that you've transitioned to life back and forth, and it's worth sharing?
Oh gosh. I think particularly over the last 4 years or so, flexibility. Flexibility is key. You've got to um, recognize that all of us individuals are all coming from our own individual situations and what's going on in our lives. Those are all different. Flexibility is really important. I one of my employees, he's an estimator on my estimating team. His wife was a nurse during the pandemic, and they were really dealing with a lot of fallout from that, and just pure exhaustion and that kind of thing. And so just in talking with them, I'm like, what can I do to help you guys? Because they have two young kids. His wife's a nurse. He's trying to train and learn more about estimating and that kind of thing. And we found, that for him, the ability to work from home 3 days a week really, really helped them. And so I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to make this work, how to make this happen. And I understand, you can't build a building remotely. Like our field employees have to be in the field, but even just flexibility with them as well. Like everybody has things going on in their lives, and making sure that your people know that you don't view them as a number. They are a full human that have personal lives and family lives, and that I'm here to help them navigate that as best I can too. I think is really important.
Wow. Wow. Again, you're trailblazing things that these conversations are not had enough, especially in
Yeah.
our industry. And we're all human beings. We all have good days and bad days, and our brains sort of do this, right? And I want to ask this question: is you're faced with a tough decision, which happens so regularly. Are there questions you ask yourself while making that tough decision? How do you get through a tough decision?
Oh gosh, a lot of talking, a lot of bringing ideas and brainstorming with my leadership teams. Um, I'm very much I follow my gut, like that intuition. Um, if something feels bad in my gut, I listen to that. And this doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that. So how can I make this decision be one that makes me feel good in my gut? Um, People are always at the center of that for me. Um, I think it's particularly when faced with challenging times, when you struggle, when you might be 60 days behind on your payments to your suppliers, and they're getting nervous. They're like, okay, what's going on? It really does come down to that vulnerability, that connection, the understanding that I don't need to do this as a lone wolf. I don't need to do this alone. Um, and when I'm making decisions that are going to affect my employees, their families, their well-being, I think it's really important that they feel empowered, that they're part of that decision.
I'm smiling. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. You are a
Thank you.
breath of fresh air to the industry, to humanity. Thank you. The things
Oh,
you just talked
Jonathan,
about,
thank you.
vulnerability, connection.
Yeah.
I don't need to do this alone. And yet, let me tell you something. Let me tell the folks out there, right on the Phoenix website, and I might quote this wrong, so please correct me. It says, when we look you in the eye, shake your hand, and give you our word, it means everything to us.
Yeah.
Christy's demonstrating that. And the most important thing is, like, there's no room for egos on a job site. This, I'm jumping out of the chair when I say this. And when I first came across it, was like, holy smokes. This is why we're here today. Because you just amplified it again. Wholeheartedly, coming from you, Christy, saying, like, I don't need to do this alone.
Yeah.
Yet that happens more times than not. It's the exact opposite, where human beings go close a door and put their head down on the table and go, and they'll curse and swear or do whatever it is for them and say, how the hell do I get through this? And then we'll make some randomized decision that might feel good, taste good, smell good at the time, but is not evaluated to the things that you just talked about. How is this going to impact somebody else?
Yeah.
Because when you impact somebody else and when you give it down with the other people, guess what? They're still there for you. They're still there for you.
Absolutely.
Look, this comes back down to everything you've talked about along the way, is the partnerships, right? We're here we're all on the same pathway to create this building. How do we do it together? How do we collaborate? How do we get past this shit? Holy smokes, the water is rough, right? So
Yeah.
you have a choice. You can, build a better ship. Yeah, sure. What else could you do? You could destroy somebody else's. Sure, that doesn't serve anybody well. Or why don't you tether to the other ships out there and form one massive floating island to get through it all?
I love that analogy. That's fantastic.
Because that's how big things get done. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is magical. Look. Okay. A heavy question coming your way, and then I
Okay.
promise we'll have some fun stuff. This like, I really want to know now. Like, everything I know about you, there's so much more. It's the emotion, the passion that is inside of me. I mean, if I could jump through the screen and give you a big hug, I really would. I really want to know, like, what's a legacy you want to leave behind? Why the hell are you doing all this?
Oh, that is a heavy question. That's a big one. And it's something that I've reflected on. I don't know that I have like the three key words of the
Sure.
legacy I want to leave behind yet, but I do know this. I want it to be positive. I want to. I hope that people see the things that I've done and think to themselves, "Oh man, I can do that too." I hope that I can bring confidence to particularly women in our industry. I think that has gotten so much better. I've been doing this for a long time, and I think that I'm really excited about the way construction and our industry as a whole is really embracing women in the workforce and in leadership positions too. And I think that's really important. I think there's some generational shifts that are happening in our industry that is helping move some of that along. I hope to be on the leading edge of that. I hope that young women. One of the things that I am most proud of with Transportation and Construction Girl, we were able to award the first full ride scholarship to the Colorado School of Mines for a young woman who she came she was an immigrant. Her family were agricultural workers, and I don't know that she would have had that opportunity. And now she's going to one of the top engineering schools in the nation to be a geological engineer. And that's the legacy I want to leave. I want young women to see that we can do it, that we're going to do it well, and that we have unique and special contributions to bring to our industry that are just going to improve it and make it better for everybody.
Wow. Touching, moving, inspiring. Thank you. For every construction professional out there, male or female, you've certainly left a resonating impression with me, with our audience. You're up to huge things in this world. Thank you. Thank you for leading with empathy. Thank you for making a difference in the construction world. Thanks for, being real about it and saying, look, it ain't peaches and ice cream all the time, folks.
Yeah.
It's tough. And it's when it's tough that it's time to dig in and lean, to the left and to the right, to the people around you. You show up and say to the folks in your team, I was a jerk.
Yeah.
They're thinking it. They're not saying you're a jerk. They're saying you had jerk-like moments. Guys, I was an asshole. I was a jerk. And guess what? I'm sure they responded in a way that, now they have the psychological safety to say, if Christy's got bad days, then we all have bad days. We all say, look, we all say less than desirable things. We do. Mm-hmm. It's not about not screwing up. It's about the awareness that occurs. And then the recovery stage, right? The recovery stage. It's really easy to say, let's not, today I'm not going to eat that bag of chips. I'm not going to eat the chips. I'm not going to eat the chips. Guess what happens? You get depleted and you're going to reach for the chips.
Yeah.
It's not about not having the chips. It's the awareness. And then the recovery. Okay, so maybe I'm going to have 5 chips today instead of the whole bag. I don't know. I'm just, you illuminated so many things that need to be talked about. So
thank you.
How the heck do people get in touch with you?
You can find me on my website. It's www.phoenix-masonry.net. My email address, my inbox is always open. I love talking to people. I love connecting with people. And that's just Christy@phoenix-masonry.net. Reach out. I would love to connect. If there's anybody out there that resonates with the things I'm saying and thinks maybe they've been alone out there on their island trying to make it work and trying to survive and get through some of these hard times, reach out to me. Let's have a Zoom meeting, have a cup of coffee together, something like that. I love that. I love connecting with folks.
Thank you, Christy. Look, this is the thing, folks. We don't thrive in a bubble. We thrive in community. Yeah. Human beings are designed to connect with people, connect, share stories. If I knew something that served me well and I didn't share that with the world, shame on me.
Yeah.
And now, Christy, look, what you're saying, if I'm a masonry or considering to be a masonry, like, why the hell wouldn't I want to connect with a company that's empathetic, that has the leadership qualities that you speak of, that believes what you believe? Like, magical. So thank you.
Well, come on board.
I have a couple of fun questions for you. Okay, rapid fire, super fast. Okay. Finish a sentence. First thing that comes to mind. Women in construction are
powerful.
All right. Without construction,
we have no buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, we have none of this.
Right?
Okay, and we're going to end it on a powerful note.
Okay.
In your opinion, construction needs more of?
Oh, in my opinion, construction needs more vulnerability, more empathy, and more connection. I think we need to hone in and focus on the elements of construction that bring different people together to create one common goal that we can all be proud of and successful. And I think that takes empathy and vulnerability and a willingness to look outside oneself.
Wow. That's it. That's it. Thank you. You're saying that, and my eyes are starting to sweat because I'm just like, this is it. This is you nailed it. You nailed it.
Thank you.
And that's why we're here today. When we talk about putting people first, when we talk about flipping the script and breaking the narratives and changing the way things have always been done, Christy, you're doing it. It's an honor to have you here. It's an honor to share space. I'm so grateful that our worlds intersected. You are up to some really, really massive things. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the universe has in store. So thank you for making the time to be here today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
Holy moly, folks, that was magical. Christy Crook is up to some magical things in our industry, really trailblazing the things, really shifting the way it's always been done, really having the tough conversations that it takes to build relationships. If you got one takeaway, it's all about relationships. Construction is about people. It always has been. It always will be. I'm not sure why we sometimes get deviated and think that we can do things ourselves. Christy pinpoints what happens when you actually lean into the uncomfortableness and ask people around you for support, how things show up. Super cool, super magical, highly emotional. So many cool things to take away. Listen, thanks for being here to the end. If this episode served you well, don't be selfish. Do something great. Share it with somebody else around you so that it may impact them and others in your orbit. Until our paths intersect again, do something great. A true honor and pleasure to end an episode like that and know that in the background there are some great partners, and O'Neill Electric is one of them. www.o'neillelectric.com for all your electrical needs, day-to-day materials, quoted goods. Here's the thing, like O'Neill really makes a difference. And we all excel when we have great partners we can lean on in the background. I wholeheartedly mean that. O'Neill makes the difference. Truly amplify your electrical project and take it to the next level. Leave you feeling fantastic about it. It's the experience created. It's not simply the transaction. Check them out, www.o'neillelectric.com. O'Neill makes a difference. Been doing this for decades, and they continue to grow and become sustainable. And it is an honor to mention their name. It's an honor to have them in orbit. I invite you to bring them into your world. It is game-changing. O'neillelectric.com changes everything you know about your electrical